Hi, I'm Professor Beck Strah.
And I'm Professor Eric Bronson. And this is Prison Breakdown.
2, 3, break!
Hate to spoil his fun, but we're gonna bust out of here.
2, 3, break!
I'm locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
2, 3, break!
I can honestly say I'm a changed man. No danger to society here. God's honest truth.
2, 3, break!
I'm not leaving this cell. I'll get out my way. The right way.
2, 3, break!
Aloha, dudes. Welcome to Prison Breakdown and Summer Breakdown.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. Love the summer break. Summertime. It's going to be great. Can't
Yes,
wait.
it is. Indeed, it is.
There's no
Now-
better time of the year.
Eric Bronson, what are you doing for the summer? Any cool trips planned for you? Maybe some Ohio?
So we got a little bit of Ohio.
Ohio. Yes.
Yes. And definitely going, to Cleveland because Cleveland rocks. But trip to Texas and North Carolina. Nothing crazy fun like you're doing, I believe.
Yes. Producer Britt and I are going on a prison pilgrimage to
Nice.
Columbia.
Let's hope we're not going on a prison pilgrimage to Columbia. I mean, if the White House had their druthers, I'd probably be there, but haven't caught me yet.
So we are going to investigate Columbia. Go take a look at some of the sites out there. Maybe a prison. Maybe
Excellent.
not.
Maybe
I'm going to Mexico
maybe.
City next week.
Wow, you're a brat.
Yeah.
Columbia and Mexico City?
And Dublin in July, my man.
Jerk. Rude.
Mhm.
Well, first off, what I want to say is about Columbia. I think while you're there, you need to scope out possibilities for a study abroad. But we'll move on to your next place. So you've got 3 big trips planned. It's a good thing you're young.
3 big
Get 'em in
trips.
now.
We're also
Get 'em-
going to Portland, Maine for a week or so to celebrate
Nice.
my 5-year anniversary. Yeah.
Nice. Wow. 5 years already.
Right. 5 years already. I've been here for 5 years.
Wow.
Known Ellie for 5 years. So yeah,
That's shocking. 5 years.
it is indeed.
Now, you
But
haven't
know
been-
what?
you
It's a
haven't-
good shack.
It is. But is it married for 5 years? No.
No.
No, okay.
That's
I didn't think.
it's 5 years of
Okay.
meeting each other.
Oh, okay.
See, we were smart and decided to have our anniversary and wedding day on the same day, like the day we meet and our anniversary. So that way
You
we
did-
celebrate
you-
one.
You did that, didn't you? So you don't have to
It's
remember other
economical.
dates.
I'm pragmatic above many things.
Yeah.
Why would she not do that?
Yeah.
She agreed to it. It's romantic, Eric.
Now, let me ask you this. How many months did it take you to convince her of that?
Oh, I think I suggested it, and because I'm dropping romance, I'm good at the convincing here. I'm good at
I see.
the sell, the art of the deal, as our president would call it.
Oh, geez. Oh, okay. All right, I'll buy that one.
Well, anyway, I'm glad we did it on the same day, and we get to celebrate it bigger, right? Rather than
Yes.
have 2 smaller anniversaries, you just get one bigger, better anniversary.
Yes, Bigly.
Bigly, thank you.
Bigly, the Bigly anniversary.
And now, do you celebrate your anniversary on 2 different days?
So our wedding anniversary is in July, and that'll be 21 years this year.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, I know I'm old. And then that is the only date that Delana kind of remembers. She is terrible about remembering dates. And if you ask her when we met, she has absolutely no clue. our second date, she only knows because that was Halloween, so it was made simple for her, that it was on a Halloween, but and she'll remember the year. She remembers that it was 2002, but she doesn't remember the date that we actually met, which was September 20th in 2002. So those things aren't important, and it's great when you ask her, like, how old's Eric? I age very quickly, and she doesn't. Like, she still at times will, all of a sudden I'm like 6 years older than her. I'm like, wait, we're only 2 years apart there, lady.
I will argue that you are. I could not tell your age. When you initially told me your age when I first met you, I was like, wait, what? He's
shocking.
Like 10 years older than I would have thought. It's the bald. It disguises age.
It's chubby cheeks makes it harder to tell a person's age.
maybe it's a combo of the both.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I would argue you've aged very well, my friend. Like a fine wine.
I appreciate it. Very fine wine. Yeah.
Now, and let me ask you this.
You'll see soon that the years go much faster as soon as that child arrives.
Let me ask you.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
On your second date, what were your costumes? It's Halloween. What are you wearing?
Well, I actually had to teach that night. It was a Thursday night.
So you dressed up, I assume?
No, I did not. You got to remember, this was West Texas. That would have been frowned upon at WT.
The devil's holiday.
Yeah. So we just happened to go meet out at a bar. So, that was about it. Just go and, have a little bit to eat and a drink. So,
did you dress up? Neither person's dressed up on Halloween?
No.
This is blasphemy, Eric.
I know.
I expected more.
I know. Yeah. I am disappointing.
Never disappointing, my friend.
Yeah. When it comes to Halloween stuff, I am. You got to remember, because I'm a giant, costumes do not come in my size easily.
No, you can. You just have to do the same thing every year. Get a king size sheet and be a ghost.
I'm glad you said ghost.
Yeah. Being a big white guy, it could be seen as maybe very problematic. Just don't make the head too pointy. Like, let it drape. Rounded head. Remember, rounded head.
No, I just go and get a garbage bag and poke a head on my arms out, and I go as white trash. So yeah, that works well. It's a cheap and easy one, and it's just got to be one of those yard contractor bags, because those are the only ones that'll fit around me. So what did you dress up as in the last Halloween you dressed up?
I was Coach Strah. I wore a tracksuit and a whistle around my neck, and I had
the picture up on the board on your door.
Yeah. One of my most excellent students, Liv. Yeah. She put that up there as a nice gift for me. Yeah, and I was honored to have 6 of my students dress up like Professor Strahs.
That is quite funny. That was quite funny.
So yeah, I like low effort costumes, like Coach.
Yeah,
great. I was gifted a Baywatch jacket a couple years ago, and I love this Baywatch jacket, and like some sunglasses to wear with it. But it is like always way too cold in late October to wear shorts. And as we know, Baywatch they wear shorts
all the time.
I can't show up not in swim trunks or shorts. So I'm waiting for a warm year to break this out. I look forward to that.
I think you just need to tough it out.
I disagree strongly.
You got to be tougher than that. Legs don't get that cold.
Yeah, maybe yours don't, my man. It's like 50 degrees in Rhode Island today. I'm going to be the one that talks about weather because I'm cold.
It is. Well, yeah, it's 47 right now. So it's cold.
Yeah. Not a promising start, summer.
No, we've been very disappointed thus far. It's been a long winter here. We have not had much of spring yet, and this nor'easter we have going on right now is not making anything better.
Yeah, get it out of here.
Yeah.
Bring on Mexico is what I say, baby. And speaking of Mexico, I hear we might have some international exotic razor wire news.
We do have some fun news hot off the razor wire.
Bring it.
Fresh news, hot off the razor wire.
Okay, prior to our, and I don't know if it really be exotic, but our international news, let's quick update on the New Orleans fugitives that are on the
Wait. I played the sped up version so the listener does not have to sit through more.
Right.
But I love that song and I love Flashdance. There's no shame there. Please continue. That's our theme for this manhunt.
That is our theme for the manhunt, right? The 5 fugitives are still on the run, but we have some updates that I think need to be discussed quickly. It's been over a week since the 10 inmates broke out of the Orleans Parish Jail in one of the boldest escapes in Louisiana history, and the story keeps getting bigger. According to 4WWL CBS out of New Orleans, the case has triggered statewide investigations, a high-profile executive order, 3 arrests for aiding fugitives, and widespread calls for criminal justice reform. As the manhunt for 5 escapees enters its 7th day, top state officials say the jailbreak has become a tipping point for deep, long-ignored failures in the New Orleans jail system. So there's some new footage out, not that big of news. But big thing yesterday, on Wednesday, Governor Jeff Landry issued an executive order in response to the escape, calling for wide-reaching audits and reforms. And the order includes removal of all DOC inmates from the Orleans jail, operational audits of the facility, which why the hell aren't those going on anyways? But I digress. Case file reviews by the Inspector General, criminal court oversight by the state's highest judiciary, a broader system to track criminal cases from arrest to conviction. So they had an executive order from the governor handed down to really kind of get things going in terms of getting inmates out of there, getting them in the places that are more secure, that have locks and hinges that work.
Step 1 and step 2 for jails.
Yeah, right. So the next thing is 2 civilians, Courtney Harris and Corvantney Baptiste, were arrested Wednesday. State police say Harris transported 2 fugitives after the escape, and Baptiste gave food and cover to Corey Boyd, who has since been recaptured. So 2 arrests have been made, both for harboring fugitives in Louisiana, and they will face serious charges there. And the Attorney General of the state, Liz Murrill, toured the jail Wednesday and reiterated the urgency of structural changes, and said we should invest on the front end, including the locks and the hinges on the doors, which will save a lot of money. And she also said the famous, if you see something, say something line.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
And to go along with that, we will prosecute you if you assist these escapees. But if you see something, say something. Now, we are talking about New Orleans. New Orleans is the greatest place for seeing things, right? I mean, where do you
weirdos,
see? Yeah, right. I mean, that is a public show at all times. Yeah, that's if you see something, say something. And finally, they announced, along with the FBI, that there are rewards for up to $20,000 per fugitive, which we know.
They're sweetening the pot.
Well, we know those never get paid out. So, yeah.
Do they not really?
Oh, they're terrible about paying those out. I need to go and find that study about it's a ridiculously low percentage of people who actually collect on that. Oftentimes the people who do turn folks in get convicted for aiding and abetting in some way or harboring a fugitive. It's because they're just like, well, how did you know this about them? And then they turn you into a target. So yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And
that sucks extraordinarily. Don't talk to the government is basically what we're learning here.
Right. Stay the hell away from. So that's our update on the New Orleans 5, 5, right? Started with 10, still got 5 on the run as of 40 minutes ago. So next up, and I think this is a big one. Here's our international piece.
Bring it.
And this is a big announcement. The UK, United Kingdom, will roll out chemical castration for sex offenders. So Associated Press out of London, the British government is to roll out the use of medication to suppress the sex drive of sex offenders as part of a package of measures to reduce the risk of reoffending and alleviate the pressures on the prison system, which is running out of space. In a statement to Parliament Thursday, following the release of an independent sentencing review, Justice Secretary Siobhan Mahmood said so-called chemical castrations would be used in 20 prisons in 2 regions, and that she was considering making it mandatory. Of course, it is vital that this approach is taken alongside psychological interventions that target other causes of offending, like asserting power and control, she said. Though the review highlighted the treatment would not be relevant for some sex offenders, such as rapists driven by power and control, rather than sexual preoccupation. Mahmood said studies show that chemical castration can lead to a 60% reduction in reoffending. It's currently being used in Germany and Denmark, and as well as Poland, where it is mandatory for some offenders. So in Germany and Denmark, it's voluntary, but in Poland, it is mandatory for some offenders. So I think that is a big change in terms of policy throughout the UK, and I have a feeling it's something we're going to see take off throughout the rest of the European Union if this is something that they find to be as a successful deterrent. When we're talking about chemical castration, it's typically medical pills. Some type of pills that are used to decrease the testosterone levels. And it seems to be far more common in being used in terms of throughout. Currently it's being used just as kind of like a hormone treatment. But this is something that obviously they can ramp up the level or the amount of medication they're giving them. And part of this is that there's no immediate change to an individual's appearance. However, this, with mandated injections that are done, monthly or weekly, that it's been shown that men can have changes in distribution of auxiliary hair. And what the research shows is it will resemble the distribution. Pubic hair can resemble the distribution in female patterns. So there will be changes for these individuals, but it is something that I'm sure will be watched very closely as they start to move forward with this. Their big thing is that they're, in the UK, is they are dramatically trying to reduce the prison population, because over the last 15 years, their prison population last 20 years, their prison population has doubled. So while their crime rate has gone down, we've seen this kind of thing before. Let's scare the hell out of people, say we need longer sentences. Prisons
this
get overfilled.
Sounds so familiar. Where have I heard of this?
Yeah.
No, that's us, America.
Yeah. Politicians love to do that, and so does the media, right? It's hard to get someone to watch some news if everything's good outside. So let's talk about the murders and the sexual offenses and all the horrible stuff that's happened over the last week and scare the hell out of people to get them to turn on the television.
Yeah. So tell me, the science shakes out where it does seem to have some kind of deterrent value. So the downsides are, one, you're forcing pills on people, and I'm never strongly in favor of that. Is it reversible at some point? So they're off probation, they've completed all their treatment.
Yes, depending on the dosage of the medication that's used and the length of time, because the testicles can literally become so small that they're hard to detect. But the research shows that once you stop treatment, and then they can, if they want, increase testosterone as a treatment, that it will eventually bring a person back to having the same type of desires. All right. So people might be saying, well, why the hell would you want that? Well, let's say somebody's falsely convicted. We want to be able to restore them to their previous self as best as possible.
Question for you. So are they only administering these pills and these treatments to people while they're in prison?
No, these are for individuals who are out.
Oh, okay.
Probation and parole, I assume. Yeah. Like in prison, it seems like what's the
point?
Unless
exactly.
Right. Crazy sexual assaults going on.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's really to reduce the libido, and the research shows to minimize erections. So, yeah. But and like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens moving forward with this, if they are able to drastically reduce their prison population by doing this. And obviously they're as the Justice Secretary mentioned, that this is something that needs to be done in conjunction with psychiatrists and psychologists. And where are you going to get those folks to help with being able to identify which type of offender is actually going to benefit from this? Because as she mentioned, it's not for everybody. If we're looking at somebody that is driven by power and control over an individual, which I think is a fairly large number, this isn't the answer. So
yeah. And it's interesting, like, with so many people being affected by like past abuse, how does something like this affect them in terms of their offending? Like you're not attacking the root of the offending at all. You're attacking like it's a treatment. It's not a cure that you're looking at. And so it's not a good long-term strategy, because it doesn't yield any long-term benefits. It's a short-term strategy that may have some promise in reducing offending, but we need to be looking more at these long-term solutions to try and like halt sex offending. entirely and like turn the person's brain around rather than just like give them a pill.
Right. And I think this, this idea of chemical castration, people buy into it because of the title, because of the label.
Yes. Yeah.
Chemical. And when you say castration, people who hate sex offenders are like, yes, I like this. I'm for this. Let's castrate these monsters. And it's not what they think it is.
It's just like graphic. It's an emotional language that you're throwing at somebody, even though it is not actually castrating them.
That's right. So yeah. So that's our international news of the day. But I thought that was rather important. I saw that pop up on my feed from the AP, and that's kind of important for us to discuss. I think as an alternative to incarcerating individuals.
Well, Bronson, baby, thank you for educating us on the cast and our listenership out there.
Absolutely. And you know where you can get more of that type of education is the School of Justice Studies at Roger Williams University, who happens to be our wonderful sponsor.
Educate me more about Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies.
You can go there and get degrees in sociology, anthropology, political science, and international studies, along with legal studies, forensic science, which, man, the stuff they're doing over there, you want to talk about sexy education. My goodness. Yeah, it is. That stuff they're doing in virtual reality, it's unbelievable. But let's not forget, our degree in criminal justice, which obviously you and I are both. Yeah, let's focus on that. But we also have master's degrees in criminal justice, public administration, that these students can use to help get themselves a little bit of a better career or promotion. It's a great opportunity to come here and get all that in a one-stop shop. So thank you, Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies.
Thank you, Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies. This whole thing sounds very enticing to me. I'm going to have to go to this website and check it out.
Yeah, you should. So,
shall we move on to a little main event?
I would love to
get into it.
Let's hand it to producer Britt on this one. That was some hella tight electronic Phantom of the Opera shit that he put together right before the episode started. And we applaud you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's some special introductory music. That's just high quality stuff right there. Daunting is the word. You know that this main event is going to be something special.
Oh, it better be with how much work I put into that song.
Yes.
Well, gang, let's talk about the walls one last time until a news story comes up at some point, inevitably. But today,
I was going to say
something special.
I love that you threw inevitably because it won't be long to some other horrible thing comes out of this place. So let's get to this 51 years, right? 51-year-old prison siege. Yeah.
The Huntsville siege of 1974. It was a hostage situation that lasted 11 days in the summer of 1974 at the Texas State Penitentiary at Huntsville, baby.
Ooh, yes. So, man, that's 11 days. That's a serious siege.
It is one of our longest hostage situations we've ever seen in the United States. And I actually started all my research here on the walls looking at this Huntsville siege and talking about when we talked about hostage situations a few months back. And it was long enough that I was like, we're just going to talk about the walls, and we're going to make some episodes about the walls because there's some interesting stuff that happens here. So our tale starts in 1974. And prior to this time, the Texas State Penitentiary at Huntsville, which I'm just going to call the walls moving forward, it operated under harsh security protocols aimed at maintaining order, implementing discipline, and preventing escapes. So they've got these high walls, they've got armed COs, they've got guard towers. And in the 1970s, the prison housed this very diverse set of offenders. They ranged widely across like sentence length, offense type, and experience in the prison system. So it's all ranges of classifications. And this strains the system because they have limited resources. They have overcrowding, and they have these like high inmate to corrections officer ratios, and they don't have that many programs for people. So it's overcrowding mixed with shitty conditions, mixed with like inmates being bored because they don't have a lot to do. And it creates a system of unrest for people. And they talk about riots like this. It's this powder keg, right? It's about to blow. And anything can set off a riot. And there was a riot set off in the Susan Baranowski prison in Massachusetts a few years ago because an inmate didn't get to shower when he wanted to. And that got one inmate upset, leading to other inmates getting upset, and they tore apart a unit. They totaled a unit, and they had to go back and rebuild.
I could see if it had been a while, why that inmate might be that upset, especially if it's something that is just, if they're actually feeling like disgustingly dirty, I could see why that might set them up. Or is, if you're a cellmate of one of those individuals, like they need to shower. Because I remember when I was working, I had to tell inmates you got to go shower. If you want to talk about this, go shower right now because you haven't showered in 3 weeks. Go shower right now. Because it starts to become a health risk.
Yeah, it's gross. I would have inmates come up to me and be like, "Hey, CO, can you put me somewhere else? Like my cellie isn't showering, and they're pretty sneaky." And I'd bring over the cellmate, and hey, we got some soap here. It's free. Take it. We've had some complaints. You take a shower. I can't enforce this. There's nothing I can do. I can politely ask them to shower, and that's the extent of your real authority there. I'm not going to take him and throw him in the shower, turn on the scalding hot water. Shower, God damn it. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So this is the setup. Conditions are shitty. Now, in 1974, in July, 3 inmates took 15 hostages and they barricaded them in the prison library. And let's meet our contestants. Here's our inmates. We have number 1, Fred Carrasco, known as El Señor, and the Mexican Connection. He's a prominent figure in a Mexican drug cartel. He's 34 years old at the time of the siege. And he is one of the most feared drug traffickers on the Texas and Mexico border. His first conviction for murder was in 1958. And he got parole just 2 years later, a real dog the bounty hunter sentence. After this, he did a nickel, 5 years, on drug trafficking. And by the 1970s, he had established a cartel known as the Dons. And the Dons started a drug war with other cartels. And the Mexican state actually brings in the military. So he flees to Guadalajara, Mexico, where he gets arrested in 1972. And in Guadalajara, he was in possession of 213 pounds of heroin. That is a lot of heroin, my friends.
A lot of heroin. That might keep you busy for a while.
That's like
or a short amount of time.
Yeah, that's like 3 months for Keith Richards right there. That's that's like at least 2 Rolling Stones albums.
Yeah, he was their inspiration. So it's worth over $100 million, and El Señor gets arrested and he gets sent to Jalisco, where the dude bribes local officials and escapes from prison there in a laundry truck. And this brings us to 1973, where he's arrested in San Antonio at the El Tejas Motel for a past incident where he had allegedly murdered a police officer. And there was also some evidence connecting him to over 40 murders throughout his offending career. And during his arrest, he went down with a fight. He took 4 bullets from the police. And normally a guy like Carrasco would be held in a higher security prison, but he was recovering from gunshot wounds. So he gets sentenced to our old medium security in Huntsville, since it's near a prison hospital for his treatment. We also have, in addition to him, he's joined by 2 other inmates. We have Ignacio Cuevas, 42 years old. He is the illiterate son of a Mexican peasant. Not much is known about this gent, other than inmates referred to him as a nutcase. Mr. Cuevas has a history of violent crimes, and here he was serving a 45-year sentence for murder. They are also joined by Rudy Dominguez, 28 years old, young and ambitious inmate, serving time for armed robbery. He was described by the prison chaplain as a vicious man who believes in nothing.
So he certainly believes in something.
I'm sure he does. At least violence is something that he can believe in.
Right. You're selling him short there.
Yeah, it's such a weird exaggeration to say somebody believes in nothing.
Right.
So we have Fred Carrasco, Ignacio Cuevas, and Rudy Dominguez. And Carrasco's the mastermind, and he's planning this Huntsville siege for like months in advance. The whole crux of his plan: get hostages, negotiate our way out of prison. This dude has riz, and he recruits our boys Domingo and Cuevas to help him. And in preparation for this siege, the inmates smuggled in 3 pistols into the prison and almost 300 rounds of ammunition. And how would you try to smuggle in guns and ammo into a prison?
Well, you'd have to do it piece by piece, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't think they had corrupt officers working for them. So I don't know. They didn't have the technology that they do now with metal detectors that you got to go through when you report for work. So it might have been a little bit easier to take in a gun. I would not have been, inventive in the way I suck in it. There, can we bring in a cake?
I love the old like DuckTales, like yeah. Cake for the Eagle Boys with like the cake is shaped like a saw.
Right.
I miss those days.
Yeah.
Well, very good though. They did smuggle the contraband into the prison inside of food, like cans of peaches, packages of meat, and a hollowed out ham. They actually hollowed out a ham. How do you feel about them wasting all that ham? I hope somebody ate it.
Yeah, I would hope so too. I would hope. I mean, that he had to in prison. I'm sure if there's ham in there, you got to eat that, cook that up. But and did they leave any ham to go around the gun in the can? Or did they just take it all out?
Well, it was a hollowed out ham. So it's like, think of like your Christmas ham.
Christmas ham. Yeah.
They hollowed it out and then they stuffed a gun in there and ammo.
Into a big ass ham hock.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
So our mastermind, Carrasco, he had these mad connections, and he found an inmate trustee who worked outside of the prison in the daytime. And he made this inmate cooperate with him smuggling in the weapons. And Carrasco even had his gang threaten to murder the trustee's family if he didn't play his part. So if you're that trustee, you're going to play your part.
Yeah.
And Carrasco had even gotten lucky with his work assignments, and he was assigned as a janitor for the prison chaplain, this man, Father Joseph O'Brien. And when he was working, in quotation marks, he could use O'Brien's phone in the chapel to make long distance calls, and he would call the members of his gang for support. So he's already got all the pieces in play. He's ready to go. He can get his gang to threaten a guy, get the guy to smuggle in guns and ammo. The whole thing's coming together.
That's an important part of this is, and I don't think for folks on the outside, if they don't have any experience with corrections or understanding understanding the little criminal world, the contraband world of a prison. Everybody's worried about shanks and what types of things inmates can get their hands on, whether it's if they can make hooch or whatever. The most dangerous thing in a prison is a cell phone, because they can contact folks on the outside and make things happen outside the prison. That's when we start to have correctional officers and inmates' family members being threatened, because they can communicate with individuals outside the wall. And that explains why this was so well coordinated in terms of getting them weapons.
Totally. And as we know, prison phones are monitored. If you get a call from somebody in prison, it will give you, it will tell you this call is being recorded, and there'll be a beep every minute or so. It's very obvious. So to find a line where it's not being recorded, great. He's got unlimited access. And the problem with cell phones in prisons too is like 99% of inmates probably wouldn't be an issue, but they have to prevent that 1% from getting access to cell phones. And so you can't have another inmate having a cell phone, because then they could be strong-armed and made to offer their cell phone. The whole thing is like, it's a one-size-fits-all policy that it sucks, but it also does potentially prevent violence and escapes. Now, the day the siege started was a hot summer day, landing on July 24th, 1974.
That is redundant in Southeast Texas.
Okay, so it was a summer day.
July 31st in Southeast Texas.
24th. It's very different. 24th. It was a week earlier.
A week earlier. Sorry. Yeah, it was nice and cool.
It's a cold day. Inmates at Huntsville had some freedom of motion, so they're allowed to like walk around the prison. And our boys are hanging out at the library, and the whistle goes off to let everyone know that lunch has ended. And just as it goes off, Carrasco hops to his feet. He fires a shot into the ceiling with his .357 that he smuggled in, and he says, "Stop right there, or I will kill you." And everyone is terrified. And it turns out he has hundreds of rounds of ammunition taped together around his legs. Everything's concealed under his uniform. I'm sure he looks like very lumpy and weird, but people probably aren't going to stop him and be like, "What's going on? You look lumpy and weird." Right. I mean, they should, but they're not doing their job right.
And he probably was moving around prior to this with other inmates around him, so he could kind of
fit in,
help hide that. Yeah. Yep.
I bet he makes noise though. Like ammunition taped all over your body would make like kind of a clunky rattle.
Something.
Yeah. Nobody talked about that.
No.
So these dudes take the library, and they have 16 people in the library with them. 11 are prison employees. 4 are inmates who were not involved in their escape attempt. And as soon as they take the library, 2 unarmed officers rush up a ramp to stop them, and they start firing. The inmates start firing, and one of the officers gets grazed by a bullet. The other gets a bullet in his left foot, and the 2 book it out of there. They retreat, but they call for backup. And local law enforcement, they quickly mobilized around the prison to try and like contain this hostage situation and try to prevent any kind of escape attempt. But the inmates have a really good setup. They want to fortify their position in the library, which is up a ramp in the first place. So they barricaded the door with a massive filing cabinet, and Carrasco makes the hostages take turns sitting on top of this filing cabinet, so it can't be moved. And if they want to try and fire at this filing cabinet, there's human targets right there. They don't want to take these guys out.
Yeah. No, they talk about having yourself in a good position there. That's you figure they did some planning about where would be a good spot to go.
Yeah, and there's only one way in and out of this library, which is at the top of a 2-story ramp. So they can totally hold this position. But to make things worse, the prison had actually covered some of the library windows with bricks to prevent inmates from getting distracted while classes are going on in the library classrooms. So the authorities can't see inside. They can't fire off tear gas canisters to smoke them out. They can't do anything. And at the windows that are still available, Carrasco is putting hostages there to try and deter any snipers that have an itchy trigger finger. So
Nice.
these guys have a room full of hostages, and they're in a position to make some demands. And they have the priest, Father O'Brien. He's this envoy between hostages and hostage takers. And what do you think they want? What are their demands?
They're going to want some way to get out of there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yes. They want an armored car.
This isn't an attempt to make the prison conditions better. This is they want to get the hell out of there. So this is an escape riot or takeover. So they want some way to get out of there. So they want a car or something to use to help them escape. And so they probably also want maybe some food, something to drink, and some change of clothing.
Boom. You got it. Well, they think that they're going to get out of there and go to Cuba. So they want an armored car that's going to get them to an airport and a flight to Cuba, because Carrasco says, I think Fidel Castro is going to grant us sanctuary. So it seemed like as good of a place as any for an escape.
Fidel Castro used to love to mess with the United States and little things like this, where, obviously, when he dumped the inmates in Florida, in the all those criminals that he had, all those folks who were trying to, political criminals, they just dumped all 3,000 of them there in Florida. He loves to do stuff like that. So the fact that they think that he's going to help them,
misguided.
That's it's very interesting.
So these guys, to your point, they're also demanding tailored suits. They want dress shoes. They want handcuffs. Toothpaste, cologne, walkie-talkies, bulletproof vests, and helmets. And
wow, that's smart.
Most of this was delivered pretty quickly with $13,000 worth of suits and dress shoes, and that's in 1974 money. Or sorry, $1,300 worth. And the helmets were made out of steel, and they look kind of like night helmets. And the helmets are actually now on display at the Texas Prison Museum, which we've talked about in the past. And the handcuffs were used to restrain the hostages. And they did ask for food. Carrasco demanded Kentucky Fried Chicken for the hostages and hostage takers.
Yeah, there we go. Finger licking, right?
Yeah, honestly, there's worse ways to go. I think Kentucky Fried Chicken, as far as food demands, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you get the mashed potatoes and that tangy gravy.
Oh, you think they asked for the famous bowl? Maybe a double down.
I was going to say, I don't know that they had the famous bowl back then, but definitely they've always had those mashed potatoes and that gravy.
We used to love Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was a thing we so rarely got. I remember Britt one year for his birthday wanted to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken for dinner, and our parents were like, all right, great, Kentucky Fried Chicken it is, sure. And you know what, I'm not complaining about it. It was awesome.
That's fantastic.
So they deliver all these goods, but the authorities stalled on delivering this armored transport unless the safety of the hostages could be ensured. And that's the entire leverage that the hostage takers have. So there's a stalemate going on here. And the hostages are not having a good time throughout this, as you can probably imagine. They're constantly being threatened by armed escapees. And the hostage takers made it very clear to authorities that anybody attempting to storm the library is just going to get hostages shot. So again, stalemate.
Yep.
Now, the guys on the other side of the negotiation have set themselves up in the warden's office, which they're calling the think tank. And they're having to deal with this constant threat. And on top of that, Carrasco is manipulating hostages and coercing some of them into making phone calls to the governor and crying and begging to be released. So there's political pressure. There's like pressure to save these lives. And the warden is also responsible, on top of all this, for managing 1,900 other inmates, which are unhappy because they're all locked down inside of the prison, and they're eating sandwiches in their cells served in paper bags. And nobody wants that either.
No, definitely don't.
So we advance a few days into our hostage taking, and Carrasco is losing patience. He starts demanding that the authorities deliver this transport, or he's going to start offing hostages. And the authorities are saying, deliver some of the hostages to us as a measure of goodwill. But Carrasco is not having it. He keeps stonewalling them, but does allow for some medical supplies to come in for hostages on day 9. And during this time, law enforcement, their patience is wearing more and more thin, but there's not shit that they can do because there's like too much threat to the hostages that's going on. And with Carrasco's constant threats of murder, the authorities finally bring an armored car to the prison, but there's only a small amount of gas inside. Yeah, you didn't ask for gas. They're playing games.
Sucker.
And they park this armored car like a short distance from the library, but it still seems like a far way away when a sniper's bullet can get you on the way out, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And Carrasco, they deliver the armored car, so he gives them a few hostages, including a librarian, the prison's education director, and an inmate hostage. And then he'd had enough. On August 3rd, it was like 11 days after this incident started. The inmates tried to escape from the prison library behind a shield that they called the Trojan Horse. So I would encourage anyone to look this up. So Huntsville, the Trojan Horse, just Google that and you can see this rigged up. They had rigged together 4 chalkboards on wheels, and they taped 700 pounds of library books to the chalkboards on the outside to give more like bulletproof coverage. They had all these law books, just tomes and tomes and volumes. And so they tape these law books on the outside of chalkboards and they make 4 walls out of it. And it's going to be what they use as their vehicle for escape. It's honestly like not dumb. It's silly looking, but it wasn't a terrible idea. And each of the escapees had handcuffed themselves to one of the female hostages who was inside the Trojan Horse with them. And they also had the prison chaplain inside the shield with them. The remaining hostages were on the outside of the Trojan Horse, handcuffed to the apparatus. And in front of these law books, they're making like a human shield. So they're trying to get away on the Trojan Horse. They're headed down the ramp outside of the library, and they get stuck. Now, the next part, from reports, I read a few different accounts here, and it's not entirely clear what happened, but here's what we know. So there's a bunch of officers at the bottom of the ramp, and they have a fire hose, and they turn on the water, and they try to bring down this Trojan Horse, and they fail to take down the Trojan Horse. And then the officers start shooting. And once that happens, the hostages making the human shield outside of the chalkboards, they try to scatter to find cover. And the authorities start ramming the chalkboards with a ladder. So they make like a battering ram out of a ladder, and they finally topple it over. And the chaplain gets wounded in the process. And inmates actually execute 2 of the hostages, Elizabeth Beseda and Julia Stanley, who were 2 prison teachers at the time. So there are like these, it's catastrophic. There is some loss of life of the hostages. So the authorities already lose in that regard. All in all, this firefight lasts somewhere in estimates between 7 minutes and 22 minutes. That's quite a delta. Yeah. I don't know why nobody actually got real time on this. But once the Trojan Horse gets knocked down and Carrasco realizes he's lost his leverage, he actually turns the gun on himself and he takes his own life.
Oof.
Dominguez gets taken out by 3 bullets fired by the Texas Department of Public Safety, and he's dead. And authorities thought the third guy, Cuevas, had been killed too, but he was just pretending to be unconscious. His wounds were superficial. He gets taken back into custody right away. And at the end of it all, 3 inmates held 16 hostages for 11 days, handcuffed and at gunpoint. And the incident results in the death of 2 of the men and 2 hostages. And also during the gunfight, I should mention, an FBI agent and 2 Texas Rangers took bullets to the vest, but these guys were fine at the end. The hostages, as you can imagine, they're left with some psychological trauma. Hey, how do you feel like it would affect you being held at gunpoint for 11 days? Like, that's got to mess with your head.
Yeah, awful. Even if you got the Kentucky Fried Chicken, that would be awful.
I don't know. The Kentucky Fried Chicken, like, it seals the deal for me. I'm fine after that.
You're doing okay.
Yeah.
No, that would be, I think, terrifying. And being that stressed out and that terrified for 11 days, because you're not sleeping, eating, drinking properly.
Oh no, you're eating properly. You're getting the KFC.
Yeah, it knows all the nutrients.
It's they say the best cure for PTSD is KFC.
K-fried C.
Yeah.
K-fried C.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned. I was going to say K-Fry C, but that's a Killer Joe reference, by the way. For those who haven't seen it, incredible movie.
Killer Joe is one of my favorite movies. Recommend to anyone who likes movies. Just watch Killer Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So the hostages are left with psychological trauma, as well as some minor and some severe injuries following the shootout. And each of these hostages under constant death threats for 11 days. That's going to mess with their heads. And hostage accounts highlight the solidarity and resilience that the hostages developed. So they were a mutual system of support for one another. But they also talked about the intensity of their time being held hostage and the severity and their distaste for even talking about this time. Now, even though Ignacio Cuevas didn't shoot either of the executed hostages himself, he was still held responsible for their murders. And he later gets prosecuted in Houston. He was, of course, convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death for the murder of Julius Stanley. And he was executed in 1991 at 59 years old. And we had these tragedies and the real problems here on a micro scale. But on a macro scale, the incident highlighted some real vulnerabilities that were going on in the prison system. And Texas and some other prison systems learned from the ordeal. And it resulted in implementing stricter security measures in prisons, like more searches for contraband, more improved screening processes for visitors and for staff, and more intensive training programs for staff who would find themselves in hostage crisis. Policy also shifted to recognize the importance of providing rehabilitative programs and addressing inmate mental health, recognizing that shitty living conditions like overcrowding and boredom and lacking resources can affect inmates, and it can make people feel desperate and make people feel like lost and stranded. And when people feel desperate, like that is when they are most likely to lash out like this.
I always find it very interesting that, people, when it comes to parenting kids, they always want, we got to keep these kids busy, idle hands, whatever they want. But as soon as they go to prison, they're, let them sit and rot. The same damn thing. We got to keep people busy, keep their minds engaged. If we want to help, we got to remember, most of these folks are getting back out in society, have something for them to do, have livable conditions. And, the fact that it takes something, a real tragedy like this to help highlight those things, it's awful.
Yeah, it's corrections. And if we want corrections to correct, we need to actually be doing something other than putting them on adult timeout or warehousing people, because it doesn't work. And over 200-300 years of this, we just have it constantly reinforced. This doesn't work. There are some programs that work for some people some of the time, and there's no magic bullet. There's no perfect panacea for how we handle this. But it's important that we at least keep trying new things and keep expanding services when we know that something is evidence-based.
Yeah, definitely.
And I can't emphasize that enough. So as a result of all this, Texas also expanded mental health services, eventually providing more resources for like programs on education. They offered more vocational training and counseling for inmates. They enhanced these programs to help reduce recidivism, because inmates need these services. You're not becoming a better person on your own when you're trapped in prison. It's just not part of the deal. Like if somebody's had like a faulty socialization or like a depraved childhood or whatever it is that is driving you, whatever your criminogenic needs are, they call them, the roots of what's making you offend, unless we actually address these things, we are not getting anything out of this. So it's super important that we address these things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got to take a look at this and understand that putting and investing in this is positive for society, not just making life cushy for these individuals.
Yes, indeed. Now that is the end of the siege at Huntsville. Your thoughts?
Dramatic, and like I said, it's a real tragedy. It really is. That's that when you think about these individuals being killed and then these hostages being held, that's awful. And it is something that is it's a shame that it takes that to get some type of light on the issues going on in prison.
Yeah, absolutely. So inmates having to react violently in order to get attention on, hey, conditions are shitty. And we know that that's not it entirely, but shitty conditions are fueling this. Shitty conditions are accentuating everything that's going on here. And that's making people desperate and making people more violent.
Yeah.
Producer Britt, what do you think? What can we learn from this?
Gosh, yeah, keep people busier. That's a big one. Gosh, I mean, what can we learn from this? Don't warehouse people and give them nothing to do and make their conditions awful to where they want to act out and do insane things like 11-day standoff.
Yeah. 11-day stand-up. And we know that like no one has successfully come out of a hostage situation like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone's always been recaptured. Often a death penalty state and somebody dies, like you're going to die. Like it's not going to have a happy ending for anyone. So let's figure out some better solutions, more like adequate sentencing. Stuff that's and rehabilitative programs that are going to actually address people's deficits and people's needs.
Yeah. And just, I mean, so much of it is just keep the mind busy, keep them curious about things. And as we said, as you said, it's supposed to be corrections. And it definitely isn't. When we're not providing them any programming or any opportunity for them to improve.
Yeah, and I had a prison administrator once tell me, "Oh, the budget's coming out next week," and of course, the first thing to go is always programs. They're such a bottom line item that we like. If there's any room in the budget that needs to be cut, prisons are always putting programs on the chopping block. And I would encourage otherwise, because this is the thing that actually cuts recidivism. If we can cut recidivism, we don't need as many people in prison. We don't need as big of a budget. It's all, prison is cyclical. Jail is cyclical. We need better programs. So we'll end with that.
Yeah, we'll end on a negative note.
Yeah, let's end on a downer, but not really, because we're moving on to a movie minute.
Movie minute. 60 seconds with producer Britt to talk about movies.
Hey, let's put 60 seconds on the clock. So last time, Judge Strah sentenced me to watch Do the Right Thing from 1989. So, Do the Right Thing, a Spike Lee joint, is a comedy drama about racial tensions in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York City on the hottest day of the summer. The movie mainly follows Mookie, a pizza delivery man for Sal's Pizza, the only Italian joint in an entirely black neighborhood. Racial tensions arise around photographs on the wall, a guy with a boombox, and the heat. We follow myriad characters as they face the heat and life in New York, navigating the complexities of interpersonal relationships, race, the police, community, and belonging. The movie has an absolutely stacked cast, from Spike Lee as Mookie to Giancarlo Esposito as Buggin' Out, who I didn't even recognize until the credits rolled, and I was like, what? Also, Rosie Perez is the love interest, Martin Lawrence, John Turturro, and even Samuel L. Jackson is the local radio DJ and the film's ostensible narrator.
That's the triple truth, Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
I said that a lot. I love it.
So this movie is nothing short of perfection. Every shot is a painting. Every scene is a novel. Every word is perfectly written and delivered. I have 0 notes. This is one of the best and most important American films ever made, and it should be required viewing in high school. 5 soups and 2 slices to go.
Yes. 100% agree. It's one of the best films out there ever.
It's incredible. And it's one thing that was most impressive to me is looking at how young Spike Lee is in this movie. So you're seeing exactly how young he is when he's directing it. And I would have to guess he was a man in his 20s at this point.
Yeah.
And it's so confident. It's so well made. It's experimental at times, but never like off-putting to the audience.
No.
And every conversation is important, and it's thick with like characters. Like everyone feels so lived in, and everything feels so well realized. And it is a movie that is, I'm sure, just as important in 1989 as it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I think like the real strength of this film is everything feels true. Like everything feels like it happened, even though it's entirely fictional. It feels like it happened, and it's beautiful. It's probably the best film I've watched all year.
Yeah, you've seen it before.
A long time ago, but I don't remember it being this good.
Yeah, did this change your impressions of it?
Yeah. This is, and also, I've seen other like Spike Lee stuff. This is his masterpiece, his magnum opus. Like, this is probably the best thing he'll ever do and has ever done. But that's not like denigrating his other work. It's just that friggin' good.
I don't know. Have you seen that commercial he did for crypto?
Good point.
I have not seen that.
He did.
Unfortunately, it's beyond stupid. It's weird to contrast. You made this masterpiece, and then you made this like dog shit commercial advertising for crypto. It's the two have nothing in common.
That's great.
Yes, it is indeed. We shan't let that mar his legacy, because Do the Right Thing is really that good. And Eric, I would encourage you to rewatch it if you've not seen it in a while. It is now streaming on Networkflix.
Oh no, I haven't seen it in a while, but it is such a good film. I remember it was one of those films when I was in high school and college that if it was on, or I think I ended up with a VHS tape of it. I'd watch it constantly. It was so good. It was so entertaining and hard hitting, and just completely sucked you in when you were watching it.
You should show those young lads who hang around your house. They should get a taste of what Do the Right Thing is all about. And what was the right thing at the end of the movie? Did we ever figure this out?
Yeah, throwing a trash can through a window.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Did I say burning furniture in an intersection?
Sounds right.
Definitely fighting the. Well, I was going to say definitely fighting the power is the right thing.
Fight the power that be. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Radio Raheem forever.
Yeah.
Indeed. Long live. All
right. Well, I think on that note, I think Judge Bronson owes it to you to give you a movie recommendation.
Yeah. I was gonna say I was looking for something that might be awful, because I know how you like those dog shit movies to review.
Yeah.
So, have you ever heard of the movie Woman of the Hour from 2024?
I have not.
Okay.
All right.
I want you to enjoy.
Oh, all right.
It's supposed to be one of these movies that is a true crime adaptation, supposedly, but just appears to be just an awful waste of film and time.
I've seen it, and I can't offer my thoughts yet because I have to leave Britt's Movie Minute unbiased. For anyone interested, check out my Letterboxd.
Yeah. So you have been sentenced, producer Britt.
All right.
Now, let's shut it down. If you enjoyed your listen, please like, please rate, please subscribe to this little pirate ship of ours. And we are we are recording in advance because of some summertime travel. And so we'll be back to you in your ears shortly. And thanks for listening. And also, thank you, Roger Williams School of Justice Studies.
Yeah, I think that means we also have to thank one more time the Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies for their support.
Mm-hmm.
We never not thank the Roger Williams School of Justice Studies.
That's true.
All right.
Let's hit the switch. Lights out, baby.
Lights out.